It's a view that never gets old. The sweep across Cape Town from the deck here at Durbanville Hills, Table Mountain over one shoulder, Robben Island the other, the city and the ocean behind me, and it's the breeze that comes off that ocean that lends so much of the character to the Sauvignon Blanc, for which Durbanville Hills is so famous. But there is another white wine that's getting great favour. It's the Chenin Blanc, and today we're trying that from South Africa's most favoured estate. So I've been dragged away from that magnificent view, lured by the promise of some fabulous Chenin Blanc by two rather persuasive gentlemen who are responsible for the very wine we're going to be trying. Martin, Kobus, it's an esteemed team we have with us here today, and lovely to be able to chat to you about Chenin Blanc. Before we jump into the wine, how does this particular relationship work? How do you guys work as a team, and who calls the shots?
Well, I was here first, so I'm pulling rank on him. Now, I'm cellar master, and then I've got Kobus is our white wine maker. So I spend a lot more time now. I've got a whole team with a red wine maker and assistant. So in harvest time, I try and spend a lot of time out there trying to get the best stuff in for them. And then Kobus is pretty much, he can play, especially on this range, he can play and do whatever he wants, as you saw in the small cellar.
I think we are privileged to, if you look at the years that we have as a team, it's nearly 80 years experience. So that's something that you can trust each other, you know, everybody will look after their part they have to do, and that I think is very, very important, and we're lucky to have that experience in this cellar.
It's a big operation, so no surprise that you've got more than one winemaker, and certainly no surprise that there's a white winemaker, because I think it's actually in the South African Constitution that you're not allowed to open a restaurant unless you have Durbanville Hills Sauvignon Blanc on your wine list. And so many people expect, Dan's talking to Durbanville Hills, he must be talking about Sauvignon Blanc. But we're not. We're talking about Chenin Blanc, which is a grape that, it's not the immediate one we think of here. So why, Kobus, is Chenin Blanc found such a good home in this Durbanville area?
I think there's quite a bit of similarities between Chenin and Sauvignon. Both have got a lot of vowels. This area leans it for aromatic white grapes. If you look at other growers that actually buy grapes from here, also Chenin Blanc has got actually a long track record as well. So it was obvious thing to actually put Chenin in the bottle.
Now, I heard a rumour, Martin, that there was a cellar master at Durbanville Hills when he was early in his time here, who actually ordered some Chenin to be ripped up to plant Sauvignon instead.
Yeah, I plead guilty. That was 22 years ago. And still with hindsight, I think it was the right thing to do. If you look at how esteemed the Sauvignon Blanc is now. So it's time to bring Chenin Blanc back.
I raise the question though, because it speaks very particularly, Martin, to the change in the perception of the grape. 22 years ago, Sauvignon Blanc was exactly what people drank, what they wanted. Chenin Blanc, well, there was nothing premium about Chenin Blanc, but that's changed entirely.
I think that was part of my reasoning at the time, that people saw Chenin as inferior to Sauvignon. And certainly that's turned around dramatically, with winemakers really going in, playing with different techniques, bringing in a bit of wood, which was actually something that was hampering Sauvignon at some stage. I don't even remember the old Blanc Fumés, where they actually just aged Sauvignon Blanc in wood. And those wines were ugly. And I think that's where people got more clever with techniques that they now use to utilize on Chenin. And I mean, there's some lovely Chenins in the market. I've tasted the top 10, of which Kobus is now his second one in a row. So I think that's a big feather in his cap, is that we've only been making Chenin now for what, 5 years?
Yeah, well, the Collectors Reserve only started in 2017. So
Yeah, and with the last 2 years we had top 10s with it.
Now, there's clearly something to Chenin that gives you as a winemaker, Kobus, great scope to play around, to, I guess, almost have fun as a winemaker. What is it about Chenin that gets under your skin and gives you such joy?
it's very forgiving, very, very much so. You can play around, you can make different styles. And most of the times, if you play around, you experiment, most of the time actually it comes out quite well. I had one instance with the first vintage where I actually fermented some of the nice lees in the barrel, and it was like rotten eggs. And at the end of the day, after fermentation, after I cleaned up, actually was beautiful. And it went in. So I think it's very forgiving, it's very versatile, and so you can play a lot with it.
The wines that you're able to produce are wines that, as you say, have a lot of playfulness too, but also a lot of different techniques. And we went for a walk down in the cellar earlier. You seem to have some giant clay pots sitting down there on the cellar floor.
Yeah, it's Forest, which is obviously a clay pot. It holds 400 liters, and the nice thing about it is you leave it in there, and it acts like a vortex, so the lees stays in suspension the whole time. And I've got one day where actually fermenting some of the juice on the skins, and it's actually looking quite well. So yeah, we'll see.
It's actually on berries.
On berries, actually, to be honest. So we'll see in 3 or 4 months' time what it turns out like. But yeah, I'm very optimistic it's going to be good.
We talk a lot, Martin, about this breeze that comes in off the ocean and it forms so much of the character of the Sauvignon Blanc. What does the terroir, the conditions have an impact on in terms of the Chenin?
I think as Kobus said in the vineyard as well, Chenin is much more forgiving, but it's much more sensitive to humidity, for instance. So I think on the Sauvignon Blanc, on the flavor profile, the cold wind plays a big role in preserving that. On the Chenin, it's actually keeping it healthy. That's why we've selected spots for the Chenin as well, where we know we get fairly strong winds through, because you don't want the build-up of humidity in there. It gets botrytis very, very easily. So close to the coast, you've got to be very careful where you select your spots. You'll get nice flavors, which doesn't help if you then get rot. So, so from a health point of view, I think it's a perfect spot for Chenin.
It's also a spot that clearly, Kobus, allows you to have some different interpretations of what you're bringing out. And we're finding different styles of Chenin Blanc across the winelands in South Africa. We're going to be tasting one particular Chenin Blanc in a moment. It's not your only one, though. There are a couple of different approaches that you have.
Yeah, definitely. We just launched now 2021, which is going to be a light Chenin Blanc. We actually harvested the grape at 17 Balling. Myself and Martin was very, let's say a little bit stressed because we didn't know what was going to happen at the end of the day. And I was surprised, actually, we got some tropical fruit out of there at the 17 Balling with a 9.7 alcohol. Acidity fresh, but not overwhelming, it's 6.99 and a RSL of 7. And then we've got an entry level or the Durbanville Hills Chenin Blanc, which is actually a reflection of all the Chenin in the area, which gives you actually those building blocks and you can showcase the Durbanville area.
Talking about that showcasing, Martin, I almost get the sense there's a touch of the mad scientist to Kobus, that he's coming up with new ideas, new experiments all the time.
Yeah, it's normally like an athlete, then he's already there. Normally jumps the gun.
The wine is waiting, it's looking at me, it's calling out my name. I do want to ask you a particular question about it before we try it. Martin, the label, very eye-catching, as are a number of the labels. Is that Theo Foster's work?
Yeah, this is, when we tasted the wines in the beginning, we started playing with it. The guy who does your labels actually came up with it, and he said that he knows it's been done before. If you look at the International, the Rothschilds, where they art on the bottle, but he said the wines for him is pure art. Why don't we bring an artist in? And I think he had Theo Foster in mind already at the time. And so what we did is we decided, because we one of origin Cape Town, Durbanville Ward in Cape Town, we decided to link it to either phenomena or familiar places in Cape Town. And the obvious choice with the Chenin was the Cape Gardens, where the first Chenins were planted. We had to check there's no more planted there, nothing more. It's been taken out. But then, I'm not guilty on that one. But then Theo actually went to the places and had his own interpretation of what to put in the artwork. And it's incredible if you look at the different labels on the collector's range. how creative he actually was.
Well, it matches the creativity, I suspect, in the bottle. Kobus, if I can ask you to do the honour as the white wine commissar. Well, let's find out what is in this bottle. The Cape Garden Chenin Blanc from Durbanville Hills. For people who are watching this enviously because they don't have the glass in hand at the moment, but are thinking, should I rush out to my pick and pay and buy some? Tell me about this wine, about the style and what pushes you towards this style.
Sure. Yeah, I think for me very important is obviously you need to work to a plan. It's obviously the consumers and the person that buy the wine. This specific wine, as we said previously, has got a lot of different components in there, and each of those components actually attribute to this wine. So for me, I keep a bit of freshness with tank fermentation that brings out that typical, more tropical kind of flavors. And then obviously we play a lot with the lees as well, and the lees will give you a bit more of fullness and then longevity, and then it will stay fresh for a longer time. And then oak, this wine's 80% oak, but oak is sublime. It's not overwhelming. And the whole idea of the collections of wines is wines that has to consume with food. So when you actually taste the wine, so it would tell you I need some food with this wine.
And I'm about to ask you about that because I think this is going to go delightfully with something special from your fabulous restaurant. Before we do seek out Tamzyn, I'd like to know about the aging of this. I think your Sauvignon Blanc, certainly a lot of my friends in Johannesburg see it not so much as a vintage as a use-by date. At the moment it's out, they want to be pouring. And if it's 2021, I want a 2021 Sauvignon Blanc. What do you feel is the consumer approach to Chenin Blanc, and what should it be if it is different?
Well, if you talk about Chenin Blanc as a whole, definitely the styles that's been made in the different styles, there are styles that will keep up to 10 years. I'm very confident of that. Looking at our own one, the collector's reserve that we have now, it's made in a style to be kept. This is in 2019 and we only launched it about a month ago. So we were actually a month ago still in 2018, and if you drink that blind, I've given it to some of my winemaking friends and they do it blind, they'll say, no, this is a wine that's much younger, although it's already got. So actually, yes, I believe this wine's made in a style that should keep another 5 to 10 years with these.
Right, well, this one's got about 5 to 10 minutes, I think, before we finish it off. And we're going to finish it off, I think, possibly with some fish, Martin, because I believe you went fishing this morning.
I went to a fishmonger.
Almost the same thing.
No, but I think what we should mention on this wine is when we started with the collector's range, we looked at more or less what we had in mind. And the word that came out, the marketing lady almost fell off a chair. But there are two meanings to the word. We wanted to make it funky, but as in funky, not stinky. And she reprimanded us every time we used the word funky. She told you can't call it funky. But I think this is pretty funky. But what I like about Chenin and food, I always joke with it because we do a lot of food and wine evenings. I always say if I've got to pair something and nothing jumps to mind, like certain fish with Sauvignon Blanc and certain dishes with a Chardonnay or something like that. If nothing jumps to mind, you go for Chenin. Because it's so versatile.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've had, I think last week I had a slightly older Chenin with a big piece of ribeye.
Yeah.
And it worked beautifully. All right, well, look, the wine on its own, Kobus, is fabulous. But I think it's going to have just another dimension added to it with some great food. Tamzyn is a wonderful chef. So let's go and meet the genius in the kitchen and see what she's got prepared for us. So the wine is the headline act here at Durbanville Hills, but the Tangram restaurant comes a close second, and that's largely thanks to the work of the chef. Tamzyn, how on earth do you focus on making all this great food when you've got that view to distract you all day?
Well, we actually use it as inspiration for our dishes. So it's a great view. We have the mountains, the ocean, the vineyards, so it's great to use that as the inspiration for our creativity on the plate.
You've also got inspiration from some terrific wine. How does the process work? Do you make food that pairs with the wine? Do you tell the winemakers how to make wine that matches your food? Or is it something in between?
Yes, I tell them all how to make the wine. No, so what happens is obviously we have the wine, it's an established wine brand, so we tend to pair our food according to that. We have tastings with the winemakers also just to fine tune the flavors and to make sure everything marries together for a great experience.
And that marriage of food and wine for me is one of the great loves of life, especially when you get a dish and a bottle of wine that bring the best out of each other. How much of a triumph is it for you when you get that just right?
Oh, it's amazing. After all obviously there's trial and errors, we see what works, what doesn't work. So if you've got that perfect balance, it's an amazing feeling, and it's just our pride on a plate. Completely.
Now, there's some things we tend to think of automatically. Oh, I've got a piece of fish, so I must have some white wine. I've got a steak, it must be a nice big red wine. Do you like to break those rules? Do you feel that it's a more flexible space than it's often considered to be?
Yes, I think sometimes people make the mistake of thinking red wine goes with red meat, white wine goes with the fish. So I think as a whole, you must look at the same way we look at a bottle. You think, is it a full-bodied red wine? Is it a acidic white wine? The same we must do as a dish. So if you have a fish dish, you make a fish stew with a bit of more of a richer or heartier sauce, you can have a bit of an acidic wine or something with a little bit more structure to break through that. So it's not necessarily that your white has to go with a white meat or a fish. I think you can play around with, and also everyone's taste buds are also different. So play around, see what works for you. I think that's an amazing thing to do, is think a little bit outside the box.
Now, Martin told me earlier that he went fishing this morning. I do have a photograph of him at a fishmonger, so I think we maybe lost something in translation, but I believe he's given you some fish. What has he given you? What are you making? What is going to perfectly pair with this Chenin Blanc?
So today I'm preparing a yellowtail. The reason we chose a more gamey fish is because the Collector's Reserve Chenin is a little bit more, it's oaked. It's a little bit more of a structured wine. So you can't have such a light fish. So we've paired that with a coconut broth. So you get the ginger, the lemongrass, a little bit of hint of chili that stands to the structure of the wine. And then also that's served with a fresh Thai salad.
Sounds phenomenal. It also serves as a reminder of just how versatile Chenin Blanc is, because I imagine there are 100 dishes you could have come up with that you can pair with a Chenin.
Yes, no, they are definitely. It's one of the grapes that are the most versatile. So, and it goes the same with food. That's why I say everyone has their own pairings, everyone has their own taste buds. So mix and match the Chenins with whichever dish you want and see what works for you.
But you've got work to do, so do I. So while Tamzyn goes off to the kitchen to prepare what sounds like a fabulous Asian-inspired piece of yellowtail, I'm going to go back and just make sure that that Chenin Blanc is still tasting okay.
Okay, so we've got the beautiful yellowtail here. I poached that in the coconut broth for about 8 minutes. If the fish is a little bit thinner, it can go for less time. Then this is just the baby marrow, cabbage, cucumber salad. We have the coconut broth, a little bit of lemongrass, ginger, a little bit of chili. Finish that off with some toasted coconut flakes and sesame seeds.
Ooh. All right, chef. I know you talked me through it, but remind me, what are we eating?
Okay, so today with the Collector's Chenin, I've paired a coconut poached yellowtail. So the broth has lemongrass, ginger, a little bit of a hint of chili, and then that's served with a lightly sauteed Thai salad.
So a little bit of chili, it's a little bit spicy. Is the Chenin going to be able to stand up to that sort of flavour?
Yes, because it's a little bit wooded and it has a bit of structure, it will be able to stand against that chili. It's just a little bit of hint, a little bit of kick. And then the freshness of the salad obviously also just supports that wine lovely.
It looks magnificent. You made it sound magnificent. We're going to find out if it tastes magnificent. Chef, thank you.
Thank you, enjoy.
First up, Kobus, what do you make of the chef's decision from what she said?
Well, I have totally agree with her. I think the coconut, obviously, with the wine that's been in barrel, is complemented. Yellowtail goes very well with it. It's more a fleshy fish, it's more a gamey fish, so it should work very well. Yeah, I'm very looking forward to this tasting.
I'm also intrigued, Martin, about the spice. I think back a couple of weeks ago, I had a lovely curry with some Chenin Blanc, and it is that one wine which doesn't just work with spice, it almost seems to relish the challenge.
Yeah, I do a lot of these food and wine pairings, and I always used to refer to complementing and contrasting. And then I got this third one, it's fire extinguishing. So it just stops the burn, and it doesn't clean your tongue like a Sauvignon Blanc would do with a higher acidity. So it just sort of coats it, and then you're ready for the next bite.
All right, well, let's take that first bite. This looks fabulous.
I just disagree with the chef on this.
Yeah.
Because she said it's poached.
Yeah.
I actually went out and purchased it this morning.
All right, well, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
And enjoy. Thank you, Kobus.
Good.
I must say the gaminess of the fish actually works very well. Really, it's not overwhelming the wine, and the wine's not overwhelming the food. So it actually very, very well.
I also love the fact that it is such a quintessentially South African fish with such a quintessentially South African wine. Whatever those guys in the Loire might think otherwise. And that coconut also does a really good job.
It's actually amazing if you taste only the fish, the wine seems a bit subdued with oiliness and everything in there. The moment you get the coconut milk in, it picks up on the wood, and the wine sort of changes a bit.
And also because on this Chenin, it's slightly higher acidity, as I think it's around 6.8, and it actually complements the acidity of the fresh salad as well.
How much satisfaction do you get, Kobus, when you have a dish like this that is just bringing the very best out of your wine?
That's quite satisfactory for me, and that's why we make wine. It's for people to enjoy having of their food, and it's just wonderful to have it like that. We are privileged to have a work like this.
Now we're going into a menu change. I think it's about a week's time, and what we then do is that's quite a nice day we sit down. Tamzyn will bring out all the new dishes, and then we sit with a whole range of wine and do pairings, which goes onto the menu in the restaurant. So that people, if they want to do something, it's not just something we thought out. We actually debate between ourselves, and let's try this one and let's try that one. And the pairings are normally incredible. Once we get to a satisfactory agreement.
I think I might be free that day.
Welcome.
Gentlemen, this has been so much fun. Not just learning so much from you both, but also exploring this wonderful world of Chenin Blanc and the fact that it is now showcasing the best of South Africa, both at home and all over the world. And to do so with Tamzyn's food from the Tangram restaurant has just given it that extra edge. So keep enjoying your Chenin Blanc story. Keep making fabulous wine. And thank you for a brilliant day.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.